Hey guys, so happy solstice, Merry Christmas, happy Festivus, whatever it is you celebrate. Have a happy one. And since I know we're in the middle of a pandemic, but since this is a time for family, I wanted to talk about spiritual teaching. And so you can take this as just being somebody who has a family or just being somebody who relates to other people, or maybe you are an aspiring spiritual teacher. All of these kind of things I've been contemplating are a deep part of life. And so what is teaching, but it's gaining knowledge. And so the student and the teacher are one, and you cannot separate those. And it's funny because even in elementary school, they haven't figured out the best way to teach kids math. It's evolving all the time, and that's why people get so mad about programs like Common Core, and there's all kinds of jokes about it. But the teachers are really understanding how kids have different brains, and so they're giving them different tools in order to solve problems because they've learned that some kids think differently than others. And so, this whole science of teaching kids basic math is something that's ever evolving and ever changing. In the same way, spiritual teachings, as our language evolves, as our culture evolves, as the things we want evolve, as how we see ourselves evolves, the teachings are changing. And as more people are able to grasp certain things, then other things become more important to say, etc., etc. So if awareness is knowing that we are not the mind, and the mind cannot so how is the mind experienced? Have you ever experienced a mind? You experience thoughts, but you're aware of the thoughts. And so that's all the mind ever ends up being. So this is you already have a complete open mind. And there's even things like if you want to creep yourself out or amaze yourself, look up the 100th monkey phenomenon, where this monkey learned this new skill of like cleaning sweet potatoes, and so it spread throughout the entire tribe. I don't know the proper word for monkey groups of monkeys, through the whole group of monkeys. And so they all learned this skill. And then scientists observed that these monkeys, like across the water, with no contact from this tribe, suddenly one of those monkeys also learned that skill. So, as we align with certain truths, and as you start to align with joy and you start to align with this realization that we are not the mind, we are not this separate identity, but we are this like one, not separate awareness, it's like the entire universe pulls out the stops to help you. And so, as we do this, things are starting to evolve very fast within the story of like humanity understanding what it is. And so, we find ourselves in these situations where we have friends and we have these close relationships with family members. And you may find that most people in your life who you really, really love and really, really care about don't care about this stuff whatsoever. And so you're observing that they have these beliefs, that you've had this incredible experience of all this joy flooding in from having let go of these beliefs, and you're seeing these people and you can see clearly what these beliefs are that they're holding on to. And it's easy to start to feel like kind of like I felt as a teenager as a Christian when I sort of believed this story. Actually, when I was a teenager, I was starting to see through it, but younger than that. That if you don't believe in Jesus Christ, you're going to go to hell. And so your entire life here on earth should be spent teaching other people so that they are safe from this suffering. And so now I see this as kind of this sort of like temptation of an allegory where I know that hell is not a place and it's not a future experience, and this one belief isn't going to save me from it. But I do understand that suffering comes from this misunderstanding of believing myself to be a separate thing. So when I see other people doing that, sort of my instinct is to fall into suffering myself and forget the indication of the suffering, and not realizing that they have to ask the question and I have to keep open that connection with source and that joy and able to receive and like embody or say or whatever the answer. And so it's it's funny if you look back in your own experience, you see that some of the things that I could say taught me, and picking out the cause of what taught me is sort of a fallacy. But one of my biggest like aha moments was seeing this tree that was splitting in the wind, like hearing it split and seeing it like perfectly grow from one tree into two, and then putting that together with non-dualities, duality and non-duality is the same. And that was this huge insight for me. And so I was asking that question, and then I attracted that tree into my experience. And so when you're teaching others, you have to understand that you cannot assert your knowledge into their experience. And we forget this so often, and I've done this so many times. I've believed that if this book completely changed my life, then if I give it to somebody else, it will have the same effect. And I don't realize that this book, I attracted this book because I was asking these questions, and that's where the answers were. That was the path of least resistance at the time. And I was reading in a Rupert Spira book the other day, and what he was saying made me go back and think about the first time I went to New York City, and how when you go on vacation and you see something that's entirely different from your everyday settings, it's like your brain knows how to find the bathroom in the middle of the night without seeing where it is. But when we're on a vacation, especially like for me, the huge contrast of having grown up in a really rural area and then being in the middle of New York City, like I was sort of like pushed or forced back into this pure awareness. And I had this like intense love for the city and just like excitement and energy of it come up. And it made me laugh so hard because I realized why it's so funny how people love to bore other people by showing them endless photos of their vacation, and they don't understand that that experience they had, that like pure experience the vacation allowed them to have, was this like coming back to awareness, coming back to what they truly were, and that the palm tree they saw there really isn't that interesting at all because they've misunderstood, and they like gave the credit of the magic of what they are and the magic of what they know and awareness onto the palm tree, which they then believe they can show a photo of someone and give them a taste of this magic or try to relive this magic. But you cannot assert your knowledge into somebody else's experience. And that's an important thing to remember. And we don't want it to be this way. We don't want to have teachers who are superior to us or students. We want to be just like the teachers in elementary schools now that are observing their students and learning better ways to teach. And we need to really understand what teaching is, and it's just this it's just a it's knowing itself and the process of knowing, and going back to the qualities of love and awareness will always be the true highest teachings.